my name's Sarah Jayne Butler, which is a bit of a mouthful. So to most people, I am SJ or Sarah or you or whoever. And I'm an acting coach.
Amazing. So what was your journey like to becoming an acting coach? Because I guess nobody really thinks when they go, right, acting, I want to be an acting coach.
No, they don't. I think this is the thing nowadays, isn't it? You know, there's so many options open to you, but sometimes, you know, you won't think of it straight away. When I was growing up, you know, I was painfully shy. And so my mother sort of shuffled me along to acting lessons in a bid to open me up. And it worked. And off the back of that, you know, I started out acting and was really lucky. I found lots of opportunities where I grew up. I grew up just outside Birmingham. So I did all of that. And then when I graduated, I went to a drama school called Lambda. Okay. And I graduated from there, worked professionally as an actor for a little while, and got to know casting directors and producers and things like that. And I did a film with a wonderful casting director who put me in it. And she rang me up. She knew that I coached on the side. I've always coached people. I've always kind of facilitated. I was part of the National Youth Theatre. I'd take every opportunity to assist anyone. I was the kid at drama school writing down all the exercises. I was much more interested in watching how everyone else responded to the work rather than even doing it myself sometimes. Yeah. So I suppose it was inevitable. But she called me and she was casting for a film called Goodbye Christopher Robin. And they needed somebody to come in and work with the shortlisted boys, basically, to sort of get them up to speed, make them as confident as they could be so that they really made the most of their last auditions in front of the directors and producers and America and all of that. And so I came in, I did that. And off the back of that, they said, we need a coach on the film. Will you interview for that? And I got the job coaching on the film. And it sort of snowballed from there. Fox Searchlight, who created that film, whose film it is, they called me back to do another one the following year called Tolkien. And then I started getting phone calls, and it sort of built and built and built. So whereas I've always been an acting coach in some way, shape or form, probably actually since I've been about 15, I've been a film acting coach for the past sort of few years now, sort of 4 years. And that's how it began.
Amazing. Isn't it incredible? You're so right when you say that people just don't think about all of the things that come behind being an actor. You know, you need like dialect coaches. People don't think about these people that put in all this time to create one big piece, if you like. So that's incredible. And because you have been an actor, you've got a kind of different slant as well on it.
Yeah, definitely. I think, you know, it's it takes one to know one. Yeah. And one of the things I think is so extraordinary about actors is their vulnerability. They're able to sort of put themselves out there all the time. And, you know, any good actor, I believe, is willing to take risks in their performance. And that's a dangerous thing because you risk failing. Yeah. You risk falling flat on your face and it going so wrong. But actually, it's only by doing that we make discoveries. And so there's a huge respect as well as an understanding that I think having been an actor in the first place has given me and has certainly informed a lot of my work as a coach. I feel very privileged. And I think that, you know, all acting is a conversation, isn't it? Whether it's with yourself or with other people. And a coach is just an extension of that. They're that conversation that you can sort of back and forth with and find new ideas, and somebody that gives you the space to explore, I suppose.
Absolutely. And so you've worked with a lot of children then as well, have you? Yeah.
I have. So a lot of my work, when I work on a film set, when I get brought in by a production company, is to work quite often with people whose first big film it is. And quite often that's young people. So Will Tilston in Goodbye Christopher Robin. I worked with lovely Jaden Knight, who was the Nutcracker in the Nutcracker in the Four Realms. And yeah, I mean, most of my work actually on film has been with young people.
Yeah.
Quite often, I think there is an openness and a willingness to explore and jump in feet first. That fearlessness that I learned so much from.
It's so true, because they don't have the inhibitions that adults have. They just don't have the fear. I say that to my kids all the time. You know, they'll say, oh, you know, that was a great show that we watched, but you know, I wish they did it like this, or I wish they did it like that. And they put ideas in your head that you think that is genius. That is, where did that come from? I mean, you know, they all watch so much TV and those kinds of things. So I guess, you know, their exploration of that is, you know, things come out that you wouldn't as an adult think about. But also, yeah, the fear. You know, I say that all the time. If I'm about to go on stage, I am terrified and thinking, why am I doing this to myself again? You know, and constantly reminding yourself that it's because you do actually enjoy the feeling when you get there, but beforehand and you know, the children are going, oh, Jen, don't sweat it. You know, it's cool, it's fine. You know, and they're just no bother, no problem. They don't have the fear, and I think because they don't have that, they are willing to try anything.
Yeah, there is a real openness to it. I think what you're describing, I call the what ifs, that little chatter that goes on your shoulder that's like, what if I forget my lines? What if it's wrong? What if I've made the wrong decision about this? What if I forget my cue line? Whatever that is. And it just gets in the way sometimes. It blocks us from actually being available to perform. And the wonderful thing about young actors is they've got such a clear route into their imagination. It's so unmessy. And so there is an honesty and I suppose an ability to lose themselves in the situation in the world, which is magical to watch and really wonderful to explore with them as well.
Yeah, it's just one big playing experience for them, isn't it? They are just playing. And yeah, you know, you can say, right, that's it now for that scene, or you know, you're done now, and they're like, but this is what happens, this is the next bit, because they've got that imagination, and they know where we're going next, even if there isn't a next.
Absolutely. They also have a stamina that never ceases to amaze me. On a film set, you know, we quite often will have to shoot a scene a lot, you know, so we'll go from what's known as a wide shot right through to a close-up, and that can take anything from an hour to 2.5 hours, and that's a big ask, you know, particularly for young people whose, you know, brain is probably used to doing 45-minute lessons and things like that.
Sure.
Never ceases to amaze me how they are able to not just bring it, but bring it better quite often than all of the adults. They make those adult actors, those well-known stars, work so much harder.
Yes.
So much harder.
And I guess as well, they just see the enjoyment of it. And I think when you speak to an adult that's worked on something, you know, they'll say, oh yeah, it was great, you know, but they'll always be, but you know, the long days was difficult, or but you know, the working in the dark, you know, oh, that was difficult, or working particularly in those close proximities, there's always a but, isn't there? Whereas with kids, they don't say that. They literally, oh yeah, it was great, yeah, I got to do this, and I got to see this, and I played opposite this person, and then we went here and we did this, and it was amazing. And they only mention the positives.
I really believe that, actually. And I think it makes them better actors as they get older as well. You know, the ones that stick with the industry, I think, are better equipped and have a much more positive, open viewpoint coming into it than ones that perhaps come through a more traditional route of sort of doing the training and coming up through it and finally getting their filming job when they've left drama school. I think there's it's an apprenticeship, essentially, if you start young. I worked on a film called Doolittle with two sort of younger leads that were extraordinary, Harry Collett and Carmel Laniado, and they are both perfect examples of that. They came in with such open hearts and open minds and so professional. And I know that they will work and work and work and work and work, but their work ethic and their excitement for the work won't leave them.
No. Amazing, incredible. Do you have any, over those 5 years that you've been talking about being an acting coach, do you have any real highlights for you?
Oh God, I think every film has a highlight.
Yeah.
And you know what, outside of the film world as well, you know, I do a lot of private coaching, and there's always highlights, because it's the discovery, to be privileged enough to perhaps guide somebody to making discoveries about themselves, about, you know, how far they can go, and to watch them achieve is magical, just so magical. I think, you know, high points. Yeah, I mean, the first day on set for me is always a high point, because we've been working in prep, say, for 2 weeks, or, you know, maybe a bit longer, say sometimes it's been months, and then to watch your actor walk onto set, own it, bring the part, and suddenly breathe life and take control there's just nothing like it. The pride, I cannot even begin to tell you. In fact, today, it's a year since the first shoot day of I recently worked on the most recent Bond film, and it was a year ago today that we did our first shoot day. And the pride, you know, no matter what age your actor is,
yeah,
it's like crazy. You're just bursting. So I think I feel that every time, but I suppose specific moments has been, you know, the first film that I worked on as coach, like I said, was Goodbye Christopher Robin, sitting next to Will Tilston and his family when we had the cast and crew screening, and just not only feeling extraordinary pride for the performance that this young man pulled out. He remains to this day one of the best actors I've ever worked with, but also to just feel the family and his pride in the way he created, and to see that, you feel so lucky to experience it. So yes, there's loads of highlights like that, but I think also, you know, there's the cool stuff, like being privileged to watching, you know, a Bond car chase up close, or to standing in a Disney forest where there's snow and we're shooting in December, and, you know, it's my childhood dream. I mean, that's magical. And the day I forget that I'm lucky is the day I must stop all of this. You know, I'm relentlessly pinching myself that I get to do this. I get to be in the world of make-believe a lot of the time.
And you know what, you kind of hit the nail on the head for me there about the pride. I mean, when you perform as a vocalist, as an actor, as a dancer, whatever it is that's your craft, yeah, you do feel proud of yourself, your company, you do. There's nothing, for me, there is nothing like working with one person, an adult, a child, or a company, and then seeing them do their thing. There is nothing like it. You feel, it's overwhelming, that sense of accomplishment, that sense of pride, everything about it is just beautiful. And I think there's no better job than knowing that, you know, we've done it together, and seeing that one person or that company pull it off, and pull it off in ways that you never imagined either. You know, you can see someone's potential, or you can kind of see how that's going to pan out, and you've worked on it and you go, great, this is what it's going to be. And then for me, whenever my children do a show or a concert or something, and they do it, and it's just everything and more that you expected it to be, there's nothing. Honestly, for me, I'm like, well, I've made it. I might not be in Hollywood, I might not be, but for me, I've made it, because it's exceptional. It's a feeling like no other.
I think, you know, you've made such a difference to that person's life in that instance, you know, whether they go on to be an actor or not. These are skills that inform everything that we do, the way we communicate with one another, the way we see the world, our ability to be able to stand up and be heard. You know, I think it is a privileged position. For me, the minute I started coaching, and I do a lot more of that now than acting, I realized this was for me. The payoff I get is better to see someone else achieving than to feel actually that buzz on stage myself. I'd take watching someone else do it over me any day.
Yeah, absolutely. Talks about all the high points of it, but what do you think is the most challenging part of your job?
Oh, good question. I think, you know, like any freelancer, it's the not knowing what's next. I think that's always hard. But I suppose in terms of the coaching itself, certainly on film, what can be really challenging is not knowing what's next. You know, I came from a theatre background originally, and so I was very used to having full scripts and, you know, knowing where that character's going and being able to plan it. But more and more these days, particularly on the bigger films, those scripts are ever changing. Those, you know, the storylines are ever shifting. And so you have to be open in a way that perhaps you haven't been before. You've got to be able to take one idea and go, oh, it doesn't work anymore, and throw it out the window and not hold on to it. And I think for me, that has been a big learning curve. That's been something I've really had to get my head around. So that's certainly been challenging. And then there's other little things, you know, every actor is very different. And so your approach is very different for each person. And sometimes there are big challenges. You don't speak the same language, perhaps, as that person. Or you're very different ages, or you're from very different experiences, and so you've got to find a common language.
Yeah,
I mean, I say that's a challenge. Actually, that's the most welcome challenge of the job. I love that, but it is still a challenge.
Yeah, that's the thing, like you say, that I always say that one of the big commonalities is we're all here together and we all have the same goal to make it brilliant. So I mean, once we're on that kind of page, although like you say, there are all these other challenges and obstacles maybe that you need to kind of overcome, or just, you know, just shift a little slightly, you've all got that initial goal, right?
Absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, I suppose it comes back to keeping it simple.
Yeah.
And actually going, everyone's there to tell a story, no matter how many people, whether you're in a theatre with you and the director working something out as an actor, or whether, you know, you're on a film set and you've got a crew of 200 as well as your actors. Everyone's still there to do their bit, to play their part within telling that story. And then you have to constantly remind yourself of that. I think the more bells and whistles are thrown in, the busier the set becomes. Ultimately, just keep it simple, tell the story.
Absolutely. So would you say there was someone you'd really love to work with?
Do you know what, Jen? I'm really greedy, so there's loads. There are so many. And do you know, I think, yes, there are. One of the lovely things about what I get to do as an acting coach, on films especially, is that when I was growing up, I would always watch things and I wanted to know how they got there. I wanted to be in the rehearsal before it happened to see, how did that actor get there? How did they arrive at that performance? I get to do that now, which is so cool. But I think, you know, if I was allowed to be a bit of a fly on a wall, or to work with particular people, I'd love to work with Cate Blanchett. I think she's phenomenal, one of the best actors we have at the moment, and just so inventive and exciting and transformative. And as directors, I'd love to work with directors like Mike Leigh or Shane Meadows, directors that work actually with rehearsal before film. So they work a lot with improvisation and character building, and to see their process and potentially to build on it as well.
Yeah, amazing. That's the thing, isn't it? You can kind of see it come alive.
Yeah.
Absolutely love that. So have you had a favourite place that you've ever visited, either with a job or just in general? Yeah. Obviously, you know, jobs give you the privilege of going to places that you probably would never even pick in real life, but actually you get to see them because of what you're doing. Usually it's a big field somewhere, or like, you know, but it's wonderful to see all of that. And location scouts are amazing people, very underrated. But I think actually the best place I've ever been isn't anything to do with a film. I went to the States on my honeymoon, and travelled all around. And the last bit of it we spent in Yosemite, which is a huge national park, and Sequoia, which is another huge national park in the States. And for me, I remember saying to my now husband, I want to go to America, I want to feel small. That's kind of the brief. I want to feel small. And so, you know, we went to Chicago and saw huge skyscrapers. You know, we looked up at huge trees, huge sequoia trees that have been there forever. And I suppose the best place I've ever been actually is probably
Yosemite and standing there and looking at these waterfalls that sounded like planes taking off. They were so loud, and this water cascading down, they were huge, and just being reminded that there is something so much bigger and so much greater than me. And actually I found that really comforting.
Oh my gosh, I am in awe of that. I would absolutely love to go to Yosemite. I've always wanted to go. It's on the bucket list.
Oh, you do it.
It's
well worth it.
That beauty, and you know, like you say, the scale of things is just colossal in comparison to what we're used to as well. You know, if you look in, you think, oh, that's quite a nice water feature, or that's quite a nice, you know, woodland area, that's lovely. But you've got no idea, have you, until you go to these places and you're like, wow.
Absolutely. I think it's really important actually to be reminded, you know, that there is something bigger, that, you know, nature is stronger and more powerful than us sometimes, you know, that we as humans can do a lot of stuff, but actually I think there's something at play that's a little bit grander than that as well.
And do you have any hobbies outside of work? What do you like to do if you had a week off, or, you know, if you gifted yourself some time off, what would you be doing?
Oh, if I gifted myself some time off, sleeping. No, I think probably I love photography, which I suppose plays into actually why I love coaching. I love watching people and sort of capturing, be it a vista or be it a person in a moment, and capturing that, watching it from behind the camera. So I really love that. I love cooking. I love watching movies. And I think one of the things that I haven't been able to do as much lately, and I really want to get out and do more of, is just walking, going and seeing different vistas and allowing myself to kind of have space to think.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's the thing, you know, when you're able to go out and walk, it just gives you such a clear headspace, you know, just breathing the air and, you know, seeing things around you that you haven't planned. You know, sometimes like you're so busy, aren't you, in your life, planning things and putting things into place, and, you know, this is what's going to happen here and there. But when you go out for a walk, the walk is the plan, and nothing else, everything else around you just kind of just is. And I think that's beautiful.
Yeah, you've given me actually a little kick up the bum to make sure I do more of it. So thank you.
You said you liked cooking. What's your favourite food, do you think?
Again, I'm dreadful, aren't I? I'm like, I want it all. I think, do you know what though? I love spice. I love anything that's got spice, and if it hasn't got spice in, I'm going to add it in anyway. So I suppose for me, something like, you know, a really lovely Thai meal would be great, you know, a lovely, you know, strong pad Thai or something like that, but all of the little bits as well that go with it would make me very happy right now, I think.
Sounds lovely. Would you say you are more savoury or sweet tooth?
Oh, I'm a savoury girl. Give me crisps over a chocolate bar any day.
Oh my gosh, I say this to people all the time. Yeah, same. I would say to me, yeah, crisps are banned. I'd find them. They'd call me, I promise you.
I've had to stop myself having them in the house because I'll just snaffle them.
Yeah, I know. I'm the same. I've been buying these, like, what I call healthy version. Are they healthy crisps? I mean, this is the reality. I'm telling myself they're healthy. And the only problem is the family all like them. So it's just rubbish. You know, I'm going to buy these crisps because I know for a fact that nobody's going to want to eat wheat-free vegans. Nobody's going to want those. And I was like, I'm going to buy them because then at least I feel like I'm getting a treat, but they're not bad. And everyone's like, oh, these are good. You know, when you think, really, what?
Real? Why me?
Yeah, what? I was like, but they're vegan. You're not vegan. And they're like, well, neither are you. And I'm like, no, but, you know, you they're not going to be good, are they? It will smell them. You know, I'm trying so hard to put them off. Now. Tastes great. What would you say your favourite? Do you have a favourite flower?
Oh, nice question. Yeah, I do actually. I love peonies.
Okay.
Which are, you know, don't say it the wrong way. They're known as the pauper's rose, aren't they? They're so, which I love, actually. I love that. I think that's such a romantic way of describing them, but I just love the fact they look like they're wearing loads of petticoats.
They are beautiful. We have so our in Wales, one of our like emblems, I want to make sure I get that right, say that right, is a daffodil. So I love daffodils.
They're so jolly though, aren't they? It's like a big smile in your living room if you've got some in a vase. It's beautiful. I'm with you on that. I'm totally with you on that.
Yeah. So what would you say has kept you busy during lockdown?
Work. It's been incredibly busy, actually. When we sort of went into lockdown, I had no idea what that would look like. I do private coaching. I do, I have a lot of regular clients that come for private sessions, be it for castings or for just personal development. But for the most part, I've been on sets for a long time. So I wasn't expecting to be that busy, but I've been incredibly busy doing that. I think people have used the time to really invest in their craft and build up in areas that they haven't been able to, perhaps when life is busy. So I've been doing that. And I've got an 8-month-old little boy. So, I mean, I've been momming, really, which is great, but a full-time job as well. It's very busy. I've got a wonderful husband that helps me out a lot. But he's a beautiful handful and a lovely reminder of all the things we need to remember as artists as well, to be carefree and playful and discover.
Oh, how beautiful. I love babies.
He's great, honestly.
Oh, that's amazing. And what did you have any plans that lockdown kind of cancelled, or are you hoping that after lockdown we're going to get back into it?
I did. Do you know what? Actually, very luckily, I didn't have anything cancelled really because of lockdown. Because I'd sort of been busy having a baby, I'd taken a bit of breathing space anyway from being on set. So luckily, it didn't eat into any shoots, so I didn't have to deal with momentum being stopped and then having to gauge that back up. But after, it still remains to be seen whether this happens. But I've signed on the dotted line to go back on stage this Christmas, which will be the first time for a while actually that I perform again. So we have yet to see whether it will happen. But if it does, I'll be back on a London stage for sort of November, December, January, which will be fun.
Wow. And how are you feeling about that?
Terrified. Utterly terrified. I'm a great believer that you've got to practice what you preach, and as terrifying as it is, for me certainly, I feel like the only way I get better as a coach is by putting myself back in the shoes of the performer and reminding myself of those moments of anxiety or those moments of discovery, what that feels like. And, to work out if what I'm saying works as well. I never use an actor as a guinea pig. I will always try and suss out if stuff works for myself first. So it will be a welcome challenge. But of course, I'm so nervous.
Oh, gosh. I know. So funny. I did back last year. I was like, right, for the first time in however many years, few, I'm going to go out and I'm going to do some singing. I'm gonna tell people that I'm back out. I'm gonna do some singing and just take a few jobs, small jobs, but I'm just gonna sing. And I remember the first time, it's actually to an old people's home, okay? And I have never ever, it was the smallest audience you've ever seen. It was the smallest group of people. I was terrified. I have stood on stage in front of thousands of people and been less nervous than being stood in front of 20 odd of them. I remember sitting in the car and thinking, I can't do it. I'm just gonna say I was ill. Like I was all these things coming to mind, and I thought you can't. Like I've never backed out of anything ever, even if it meant throwing up backstage and then getting on. It's never. And I thought I can't. You've got to do this, Jen. But I was terrified. It was ridiculous. But I think when I then went back into my workshop room And I said to the children that I'd done it, and they were so sweet, like, yay, well done, bless them. And I kind of shared my experience with them, and we then were working on a production, and there was a moment in the show that it just wasn't working for me, and I could instantly, the light switched, and that moment of me being I can't do it, I brought that into the room, and it worked. We workshopped it, and just those feelings and those moments, I could really play with the children, and we could really workshop it. And I think, from that moment on, I thought this is really important, actually, that I'm out there doing it too, because I've had 2, 3, 4 years where I've not done this, and all I've done is facilitate, direct, choreograph. That's been my job, and I love it. But I felt like, that moment that I could give something totally different, it refreshed the room, and also it put me in a totally different headspace, because I could kind of see where they were coming from it. And like you say, practice what you preach. It's crazy, isn't it? You think, oh well, it's fine that I'm not doing it, but actually it took so much.
100%. 100. Look, we trade in honesty and truth and human behavior. We have to observe that in order to bring that to life. We've got to live it and experience it too in order to do that, and that goes some way to performing as well. So oh, that's great to hear that you've had that as well. It's not just me that's got those nervous sweats.
Oh, my life. And it's weird, isn't it? Because you think, really, these people are, some of them, this is the end of their life, and they just really wanted a lovely, joyful sing-along. They weren't expecting it, and there was, like you say, no expectation, just joyful. But for whatever reason, I'd got it into my head that they were going to hate it, that it was going to be awful, that they were, expecting some big, huge star, and I'm just not. And it was ridiculous, all these stupid things that were coming into my mind. And when you really stripped it down and thought, you can do it. They're just here for a great time. Can you give them a great time? Yes, you can. Well, then you just need to. And I think that's the thing, isn't it? Sometimes as performers, you can be so over analytical.
I think it's a lovely reminder constantly, which you discovered in that moment, 100%, which is, it's not about you. No. It's about the story, or it's about doing it for the other person, or doing it to share that story. Absolutely. And I think the minute you take that focus away from mining within yourself, and creating those blockages, and actually, like I said, go out with that open hand and heart, that's when the joy comes.
That's it. You walk into the room and you see them all stood there smiling at you, and usually when you perform you can't see anyone because there's so many people, it's so vast. You've got the lights and the sound. I didn't have any of that. I was my own technician. And it was beautiful, and I thought that was ridiculous. I'd hyped that up beyond belief, and I had one of the nicest afternoons that I've ever had, because what a lovely story. I hope you're doing it again. Yes, I have. Since I've actually got 3 regular places that I go to locally, and it's beautiful. It's really nice. It's lovely. They get to know you. I actually do sing-alongs now, so we do like periods. So we did a World War II day, so I went in and did loads of stuff like that. Oh, it was beautiful.
Glorious.
It was really lovely. Really lovely.
You can have all of the names and neon lights you want, but actually, the reason we do it is to reach people, isn't it? And the fact that you can affect somebody.
Yeah, absolutely. My last question for you is, if you could give any advice to any of your students, my students, anybody who's watching, young, old, about acting in general, about pursuing a career, about the arts, what would your advice be?
Oh, I think it's 2 things, actually. Again, I want it all, don't I? I think number 1 is probably stay curious and say yes. I ended up acting coaching because I said yes to one offer, and it snowballed. I think we only discover things about ourselves by saying yes. But the other one is more of an acting note, which is just notice the world around you. we are so trained now, it's within our nature to switch off, you know, to look down at the phone while we're having a conversation, to put our headphones in when we're walking down the road. You know, now we're wearing masks as well. We're just completely disconnecting. Yeah. Obviously we have to wear masks, that's beside the point, but it creates a blockage. And so we're going to have to work harder as creatives and artists to connect with the world. So notice, you know, how you feel when somebody lets you down. Notice what that person does when they're having the conversation with someone else on the bench. Why do they lean forward at that moment? Why do they scratch their head? What does that tell us about them? You know, like I said, we have to be experts in human nature. It's our job to observe, to question, and to collect, kind of be that magpie, collect all of those things, because it might be useful for a character one day. So notice would be my advice.
That's perfect advice. And you're so right about saying yes. I say this to the children all the time. Say yes and then figure out how you're going to do it afterwards.
Absolutely. It's the only way we do anything. It's the only way we learn anything. If I hadn't done that, there's no way I would be doing what I'm doing right now.
Isn't that crazy? One moment of somebody asking you a question and there are two real possibilities, yes or no, and there's obviously that grey area in between, but that's fundamentally it, isn't it? You either accept it or you decline it, and where would you be now? Who knows? But look at where you are, and how incredible is that, just from you taking that leap and going, yeah, okay, why not?
Absolutely. Just you'll always discover something, even from the things that aren't so great, the experiences that aren't so great.
Always learning.
Yeah.
You've been an absolute gem. Thank you so much.
It's been such a pleasure. It's been wonderful. Honestly, it's been a joy. So thank you for inviting me on.
No worries. It's been amazing to hear all about how it came about. I think that's the thing. I really want to try and talk to so many different types of people, because it's so interesting to get this whole collective of the creative arts, you know, choreographers, directors, dialect coaches, all these people that help to create one thing, is amazing. And like you say, you've done so many brilliant things, and let's hope it just continues and snowballs and
Here's hoping. Hoping.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat to me.
Thank you, Jen.
No worries at all. I'll send you the link when it goes up onto the channel as well.
Fabulous. You're an absolute star.
No, you are. Thank you so much.
Thank you, darling.
I'll keep in touch.
Please do. Really keep in touch. Let me know how all of this is going as well, because I'm already a bit of an addict to it. I think it's a brilliant idea. So I want to hear more. Keep on, please. Amazing.
Thank you so much. Well, take care of yourself.
Take care too. All right. Bye.
Wow, how cool was that? Somebody totally different, but within the creative arts industry. Thank you so much, Sarah Jayne. Brilliant to chat to you. So we're still on the journey. Make sure you stick with us. Thank you so much for all of your support so far. Have a lovely week. Take care. I'll see you soon. Bye.